It's another Wednesday, and we are once again live with another episode of SnL. My name is Lane.
And I am Scott. How time flies, but we're excited to be back with another jam-packed video today. So grab your pencils and pens and get ready to take some notes.
All right, today we're going to be talking about the do's and don'ts when it comes to selling your home. Last week we talked about the do's and don'ts when it comes to buying. Today we're going to be talking about the do's and don'ts when it comes to selling. So let's kick things off with the do's.
Absolutely. Before you do anything, you need to realize that you're going to be creating a commodity for your home that buyers are going to see and want to buy. Think of items in a store or on a showroom floor or cars at a dealership. They're detailed, they're staged, they're set up perfectly, they're clean. Before you do anything, you're going to want to think about decluttering, pre-packing items that you know you're going to be taking with you with the move anyway that are going to do nothing but deter a buyer's feel for the space and the dimensions of your home. Touch up scuff marks, cracks, maybe consider painting, maybe consider new flooring. You kind of get the picture here, but so often people will call us and say, okay, we found another home we want to buy out of state or what have you. We're ready to get on the market. And we have to put the brakes on because we're understanding, back to what I said a few moments ago, we're creating a commodity that has to appeal online and social media and so many other places to a potential buyer. And there's a lot that needs to go into play. Even if you have a well-maintained home, you've been living in this and seeing the same environment every day. And we have to create a fresh environment, again, that's going to appeal to the buyers. So you've got to step back and think what needs to be done to get to that. And these are just some of the points that will take you there.
Yeah, the way you live in a home and the way the home is when you sell it are two completely different things. So decluttering is part of the first step, and you don't want it to be too busy. You want to remove a lot of the personal items so that way when you do have buyers entering the house, they can feel themselves living there. Also, even if you don't have the most modern updates in the home, removing the scuffs, removing the cracks, if you will, that just gives the feeling of still being move-in ready. So a lot of buyers, when they're looking at buying, they maybe want to update over time, but they might want to do so on their terms while they still feel comfortable enough in living in the home. So making sure that a lot of these little handyman crack scuff items are done, it gives them that feeling of, okay, this house is move-in ready. Even though it might not have the updates I want, I'm okay to live here while I update it over time.
Absolutely. I think as we close out, our number one item here is just think about decluttering in the very broad sense. You want to remove visual clutter from the buyer, and anything that's kind of a chink in the armor or that detracts can be considered visual clutter. So just keep that word in mind, visual clutter.
Less is more, less is more. What's number two?
Number two, we are going to want to make sure that you are accommodating for showings and open houses. Now, especially, these times we've opened back up again, and we do have showings in the traditional sense and open houses in the traditional sense. You want to realize when a buyer is coming in to look at your home, they want to be free with their comments among themselves, among their realtors. If they're coming back for a second look, oftentimes they bring siblings or parents if they're helping with the financing. And you want these people to feel comfortable with making comments about the house and understanding that oftentimes negative comments are actually really buying signs. And if the seller is present at home, it creates a little bit of a different energy level, and the buyers and their agents are not going to be as free with their comments. They're not going to relax and envision themselves living in the home as much. They're going to be cognizant of the seller being there and worried of hurting your feelings or maybe making an off comment. And we just find it's better for both sides if the sellers can be away and the buyers and their agents can have the house to themselves for that brief period of time when they're there. It's interesting too, studies show that people spend less time in a home researching that home before making a purchase than they do when buying a car. And the difference in the prices are like 10 times difference.
Yeah, so it's pretty simple. The more bodies you can get through the door, the more people that can come tour your home, the higher chance of more offers. When you have more offers, it's the better chance of getting a higher price. So bodies through the door, people coming to visit, that's really going to be important to get those multiple offers, to get that bidding war, and to get that highest price. So yes, you do have to be accommodating when it comes to showings and open houses. And I know it's not the easiest thing to do when it comes to selling, to be accommodating like that. However, we do have a opening weekend strategy to help minimize that stress and make it a lot easier on sellers to be able to open up their doors for all of these visitors to come in and to get all these eyeballs and to make sure that we maximize the price. But bottom line is, if somebody wants to see your home, if somebody wants to come in and do an open house, whatever you can do, just try to be as open and accommodating as possible to make that happen. And that's what's going to lead to the highest price at the end of the day.
Exactly. I know I started with the seller not being in play, but again, that's part of the accommodation factor. And it's also the same thing if you have pets and whatnot. We at our team do try to make it as painless as possible by having that grand opening weekend. So on that first grand opening weekend is when you want to pack up the pets yourselves, or if we're doing a couple of days from 9 to 5, 10 to 5, what have you, just kind of work with your realtor, whoever that may be, and help them again put your house out there in the best light for that grand opening and get as many bodies in there as their time, because we know when someone's looking over their shoulder and thinking, hey, they're interested as well, they're just going to escalate their emotions with regards to that house. So again, let the agent create the best buying and marketing scenario for you.
All right, do number 3.
Do number 3 is hire an experienced agent with the best resources. Well, that may seem like a duh. You don't want to hire an inexperienced realtor, just like you wouldn't hire an inexperienced attorney, accountant or surgeon for something. You want someone that's been around the block, knows what they're doing. But the key is also that has the best resources, because it's a collaborative effort now to present a home in the proper light and put it out there for all the world to see. Because we know now everyone's looking on that little device called a cell phone first and foremost, and making a decision from there whether they want to see more of the home, whether they're going to call their realtor, or if they don't have a realtor, whether they're going to call the listing agent on that. And Lane, why don't you elaborate on some of those resources that are really key and need to be in play and emphasized when you're putting your home out there?
Sure. When it comes to hiring an experienced listing agent, you're not just hiring the agent, that you're hiring the team and the resources behind the agent. So the agent's going to have resources and contacts when it comes to photographers, videographers, stagers. We at our team, for example, have a full-time marketing director that helps make sure that our listings are on every platform possible and get the most views possible. But we also have handymen if something needs to be repaired, or painters. It's not just the real estate agent or the real estate team that you're hiring their whole book behind them. So that's why, we're really fortunate to have somebody like Scott, who's been in the business since 1988, over 30 years worth of experience. And he's built this book of having the best people behind us and the best team at the best possible cost. So you save money over time. And that's really important. So make sure whatever you do, hire an experienced real estate agent or experienced real estate team that has all the best possible resources.
You know what? And I've got to give a shout out to Lane here right now, too, when we talk about hiring a team, because so many people kind of go it alone. Yes, I've been in the business for 33 years, but I started in this business when there were no photographs on a listing. All we had were the written comments, and the brochure was a Xerox piece of paper that was often goldenrod to stand out. I mean, that was about it. Fast forward to today, to 2021, when we've got video, we've got social media, so many different platforms, we've got virtual tours. And again, I have someone like Lane on my team who has grown up in this environment and also was instrumental in hiring our full-time marketing director. So understanding that when you're hiring that agent, look again to that extended team. Do they have the skills and do they have the resources that you need today to be competitive? The realtor that's been in the business 30, 40, 50 years that hasn't stepped up to the game in 2021 is going to put you as a seller at a serious disadvantage.
And we always say a team outperforms an individual. So we're lucky that we have a great team and a great extended team.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Lane, for that. I appreciate that.
Do number 4.
Do listen to feedback. Now, this is a very interesting point, because your house is going to have that grand opening weekend. Let's make that assumption, which means you could have upwards of 100 bodies through your house on the first Saturday or Sunday. And there's going to be a ton of feedback before the offers start coming in. That feedback is going to be good, bad, and indifferent to some points. You want to make sure that you encourage your realtor to call, text, email as many people as they can after that initial grand opening weekend, and that they get as much feedback and comments as they possibly can, and that you then have a kind of a debriefing session after that grand opening weekend with your realtors, because you want to hear what that feedback was. Even with your best efforts to put the best foot forward for that house, you might have missed something critical that's an easy fix with regards to the way the house has been presented. And if you see a consensus of comments in that direction, you can say, I didn't think about that. Let's go ahead and make that tweak. Or if someone's commenting on the way the pictures are organized, or they see something in a picture and it looks different when they get to the house. So many different things that might not be that big of a deal, but perception creates reality. And you want to make sure that every ounce of that perception is absolutely spot on. And the feedback that you receive can help you make sure that you fine tune accordingly.
And even if you already have multiple offers in hand, it's important to still go get that feedback and still listen to that feedback, because there might be somebody who is hesitant on submitting an offer for something that's really small and something that we can definitely overcome. Because I'd rather, let's say, if we start off with 3 offers, and then I went to get feedback and I was able to get 2 more people to submit an offer based on overcoming their feedback and their criticism, I'd rather have 5 offers in hand than 3. I'd rather, because when you have 5 offers, that gives you the best chance of negotiating an even higher price. So don't hire somebody that's lazy in not being able to go seek feedback, even if you already have an easy sale with multiple offers, because that's not what's going to get you the most money at the end of the day. What's going to get you the most money at the end of the day is contacting every single person that stepped foot in your home to get that feedback and to see if we can overcome some of those objections and get them to submit an offer.
Absolutely right on, Lane. As we close out this topic, we got to remember listening to feedback is really good, because often the more objections or a no a buyer has is telling you they really love this house more than anyone else. And those are just subtle buying signs. I mean, I've seen it time and time again where the person with the longest list of questions and objections is the one that ends up getting the house and paying the highest price and giving the seller the most favorable terms. But if you don't listen to that feedback and be open to it at the beginning, you may not know who is the best buyer for your home.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the don'ts, or the do nots. So don't number 1. So don't be blinded by discount brokers. We get it. The appeal is there. If somebody says that they can list your house for 3% total or 2% on the listing fee, saving that kind of money seems like a great idea. But what sellers don't realize at the end of the day is that if a discount broker could end up costing them way more money than what they feel like that they're saving. Case in point, Scott and I we were on a listing appointment, and we were fighting to get a listing here locally in South Huntington Beach. And the sellers decided they wanted to go with a broker who would offer and do it for less than what we said we were going to do it for. Now, they immediately hit the market. They had nice photos, but there was no staging. There was no social media marketing. It was just all those boxes of what needs to happen. They wasn't checked. So right away, they had to do a $25,000 price reduction to be able to get an offer accepted. But what they didn't realize is, because of everything that we do when we talk about our marketing, when we talk about our photos, our videography, social media exposure, everything like that, our list to close price ratio, for example, is almost 105% from the beginning of this year, where the average is less than 100. So even though we may cost 0.5% more on a listing fee than the person that we're going up against, or maybe 1% more. Let's just use $1 million as an example. If it's $10,000 more, are we getting you $50,000 more? Yes, on average we are. So do not step over $1 to pick up a penny. Is that the saying? So do not get blinded by the discount brokers.
Absolutely. And close that out. I don't want this to sound like it's a commercial just for what we do, because again, we want to provide value for you no matter where you are and who you might be hiring. But understanding when you hire a realtor, it's not like you're walking into a store and you can see the product and you're buying that product at that moment in time for the price. You're not receiving your value until you've sold the home and the escrow period has passed. And that's the money you're putting in the bank at the end of the transaction. Then and there is when you know that you've received the best value. So again, keep in mind, at the end of the day, it's not what you pay the realtor in his or her fee. It's what you're going to put in the bank when all is said and done. And if the realtors have a great proposal, they're going to be confident when they give you that range of price that they're going to be able to deliver on that based on the fee structure they've set up. So look at the math, see at the end of the day what you're going to put in your pocket after the fees and the closing costs have been paid. That's what's the most important number.
Awesome. Very, very well said. Okay, let's move on to do not. Number 2, don't rush into accepting an offer immediately. This is important because there are listing agents out there that are after the quick, easy sale, but that's not to the seller's benefit. To the seller's benefit is making sure you take the time to do the proper counter offer strategy if you have multiple offers, to leverage all of the buyers that you have in place to make sure you're getting the highest price and the highest net for your sellers. So often, Scott and I, when we're in negotiations and we're in the counter offering process for our sellers, that we extend our days on the market, if you will, an extra day or two, because we're trying to leverage every little dollar that we can from the buyers that are interested in purchasing our seller's home to make sure we're accepting the highest price with the best terms possible. And it may take a little bit extra time in doing so. So do not rush into accepting an offer right this second, because the buyers that like your house today, I guarantee you're still going to like your house tomorrow. So take that extra time to net yourself the highest amount possible.
Lane is absolutely right on that. And we're actually seeing right now in a couple of our buyer situations where there's only been 2 or 3 offers in play. And we're used to fielding sometimes up to 15 offers. And I've noticed the last week or so in a couple of situations with my buyers, even with 2 offers, the listing agent's a bit overwhelmed and they don't know what to do. And I think they're panicking a bit and they're just trying to get under contract as quickly as possible because they are fearful of another offer coming in, fearful of how to deal with and navigate multiple offer situation. And I feel bad for their sellers. Of course, I want my buyer to get the property, but in a way I feel bad for their seller because they're not creating a proper roadmap to negotiate the offer and counteroffer process to put themselves in the best light. So that's why, as a seller, if you can just put the brakes on and hopefully your agent will be driving the ship with regards to that, but just make sure you don't rush, as Lane says.
Excellent. What's don't number 3?
Don't number 3 is don't set your asking price too high.
That's exactly right. The whole let's test the market with the high price. That's such an old school way of thinking when it comes to the real estate marketplace. That is what worked maybe 10, 15 years ago, maybe even sooner, maybe 5 years ago. But in today's particular marketplace, that doesn't work anymore. What works is setting the asking price at an appealing price to where you're going to get as many buyers through the door. It's the auction mentality, if you will. Today's asking price, especially with the way things are going, it's our starting bid. Let the bidding begin. Use the countering offer strategy that we were just talking about earlier to maximize those bids and get a bidding war and to get it bid up. If you test the market and you fail, maybe you tested it too high, all of a sudden you're going to have 14, 21, 30 days on the market. And when you get to that point, you're going to have to be doing price reductions. The buyers aren't even going to be caring about your house anymore because they're going to think something's wrong with the home. And you don't want that to happen. You want to avoid that at all costs, because the average days on market here in Orange County is about 2 weeks. That's the average. A lot of times we're hearing and seeing homes sell within the first weekend. So as soon as you hit the 2-week mark and you don't have any other offers, you know that you tested the market too high. Avoid that. You have a better chance if you're looking to get $1 million, for example. You have a better chance of getting $1 million, believe it or not, starting your asking price at $900,000 than you do at $1.05 million, because you're going to create this buyer frenzy and it's going to go crazy, and you're probably going to get maybe even higher than $1 million if the house really is worth that. Than you would if you started $50,000 higher, because your activity level is going to be so low. There's only going to be 1 or 2 offers, if that, and you're not going to be able to control when it comes to terms. You want to be in the driver's seat when it comes to the terms. You want to close on your terms. You want to have a rent back if you need a rent back. You're not going to have that if you test the market and start too high.
Absolutely. And can you hear the passion in Lane's voice over this? We were talking in our last video about how passionate we are about what we do for our clients. I think this particular bullet could be a show of its own, because it's so important. One of our leaders and mentors in the past told us that so many people want to do an aspirational price. It's like testing the market. Their aspirational price is, gee, I would like to get this price. And so therefore, that's where they list the property. I much prefer, and we've had much more success with the approach where we say, let's talk behind the scenes, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. If you would like to get this price, let us figure the roadmap and the journey on how best to get there. And one of those key factors, as Lane said, is understanding where to price the home. I'm a big analogy guy. I'm a big visual guy. I see your house as the hook, and we must have the proper bait on that hook to get as many people to bite at the beginning. And then our counteroffer process is as we reel in, and some of those people that have bitten are going to fall off. But the one that keeps biting further and further down on that hook is the one that's going to get the house at the end of the day. One other point with regards to the not testing the waters, to Lane's point, we also want to carefully analyze where in that range is the sweet spot for the market price. What is the proper bait to put that on that hook? We certainly are not going to, in Lane's point, let's say if you want to get $1 million to list at $900,000, we're going to make sure that $900,000 is about where the market is saying the house is right now. We're not going to be saying list significantly under market and have all these people, 20, 30 people jump in onto an offer, and then it gets bid up right away. And all these people were at the top of their range to begin with and never could have afforded the house. That's not what we're saying. We're saying a very well crafted list price that's going to get as many people biting as possible. that's close to where the current market is. It's going to be in an expected range. They're going to look at that house and say, I expected it to be about there. That's going to be where you're going to get your highest and best excitement and engagement and offers.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I should have prefaced that. I was using an extreme example to prove a point, but I'm happy you clarified and expanded on that. But what's the don't number 4?
Don't be present for showings.
Please don't be present for showings, because I don't know if you've ever experienced that, for those that are watching, when you're looking at buying a place or looking at renting a place. But if there's occupants home, whether they be tenants or homeowners or even sometimes the other agent, it just doesn't feel as comfortable that if you were touring that home with your professional that you hired. It's a more of a comfortable experience when you can visualize yourself in the home, openly critique everything that you want to with regards to the home. So whatever you do, and when you're selling a home, don't be present for the showings, please.
Absolutely. And Lane, thanks so much. I want to give a shout out to Lane for putting these beautiful outlines together for our buyer video and the seller video. I got off base on the very first one. We were talking about accommodating, and I went to the not be present for showing. So apologize if we doubled up on that information, but Lane said it right on here. And we're super happy to have created this kind of do's and don'ts checklist for you today. We hope you found value with it. If there's anything you think we've missed, please get back to us and tell us what we can do to make this a better topic for you. It's all about you creating value for you as a seller when you want to put your home out on the market.
Yeah, and National Association of Realtors, they did a study where they said everybody will know 3 people within a given year that's going to make a move. If one of those 3 people that you know are selling, please share this video with them, because they're going to find a lot of value, regardless if they're local or not, regardless if they want to hire us or not, regardless if they already have an agent or not. Doesn't matter to us. They're going to find value, and that's the best thing you can do for us, is to share that video with them.
Absolutely. We're really grateful. Again, this video and the one last week, you're going to want to check into with the do's and don'ts for buyers. They're both great resources that anyone can look at 2, 3, 4, up to 6 months prior to when they're going to be selling or buying. So thank you so much for watching. We love doing these. We can't wait to see you for the next week's SnL show.
See you next week.